Federal immigration authorities are arresting and deporting a growing number of illegal immigrants in Indiana. This comes as the Trump administration cracks down on illegal border crossings. News 10's Ben Verbanek explains how many deportations are happening and what role local authorities are playing in the process.
Roughly 1,400 illegal immigrants in Indiana have either been arrested or deported since President Trump took office in January of this year. That number represents an 80% increase compared to the same time last year.
Governor Mike Braun said today that state agencies will now help detain undocumented immigrants. Our Marina Silva joins me in studio tonight to explain how this will.
Indiana is not a border state. It's farmland, small towns, basketball courts, and quiet neighborhoods in the heart of the Midwest. This state has become the center of one of the largest immigration crackdowns in the nation. In just over 5 months, nearly 1,400 people have been arrested by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in Indiana. That's an 80% jump from the same period last year, according to the Indiana Capital Chronicle and Axios Indianapolis. The numbers tell the story. In January, ICE made 136 arrests in Indiana. 6% of those detained had no criminal record. By June, 309 people were taken into custody, and nearly a quarter were flagged as non-criminals. Arrests from January through June grew by 127%. ICE's mission in Indiana is expanding beyond the most serious offenders. Why Indiana, and why now? The answer is a program called 287G. It's a federal initiative that allows local law enforcement officers to take on the duties of immigration agents. After training, sheriffs, deputies, and state troopers can question, detain, and transfer people suspected of being in the country unlawfully. The program has existed since the 1990s, but was expanded during Donald Trump's first term and supercharged after his return to office in January. Governor Mike Braun has been one of its loudest supporters. This year, he announced that the Indiana State Police, the Department of Corrections, and the state's Department of Homeland Security signed agreements to participate. And within months, officials reported holding nearly as many people for ICE as they had in all of 2024. ICE's Indianapolis field office made more than 30 arrests in a single day. Supporters argue these partnerships close dangerous loopholes. Local jails that once released undocumented individuals after serving time now keep ICE informed from day one. Critics say the approach blurs the line between local policing and federal enforcement, making communities fearful of traffic stops and routine 911 calls. The tension is clearest at Camp Atterbury. The military training base, 30 miles south of Indianapolis, has a long history. It housed Italian and German prisoners of war, trained thousands of National Guard troops, and hosted more than 7,000 Afghan evacuees during Operation Allies Welcome. This summer, it's taking on a new role: Immigrant Detention Center. In mid-July, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth sent a letter to Congress confirming the base would be repurposed to hold ICE detainees. The announcement sparked immediate backlash. Congressman Andre Carson of Indianapolis demanded answers, raising concerns about military readiness. In Johnson County Park, outside the base, hundreds of residents protested what they saw as dangerous militarization of immigration policy. Supporters countered that the plan is practical. Instead of transporting detainees hundreds of miles to other states, Indiana has its own facility, saving time and money. Who is being arrested? ICE says its focus remains on individuals with criminal histories, and many operations have targeted those with prior drug or violent crime convictions. A joint sweep in southern Indiana netted 23 people, most with serious records and some who had already been deported. But the rising share of arrests involving people without any charges, 6% in January, 23% by June, raises questions. For immigrant rights advocates, it's evidence that families and workers are being swept up to meet federal quotas. The impact on communities is severe. In Indianapolis and beyond, advocates report that immigrant families are retreating into the shadows. Parents are afraid to drive their children to school. Others skip doctor's appointments for fear of encountering police. Grocery runs are done with anxiety. The Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department has resisted fully partnering with ICE, arguing that public safety depends on trust. If residents see officers as immigration agents, they may stop reporting crimes. The crackdown is hitting Indiana's economy. Agriculture, construction, hospitality, and food service depend heavily on immigrant labor. Farmers can't find enough workers to pick crops. Construction projects stall because crews don't show up. Restaurant owners report rising turnover and higher wage demands. That means higher grocery prices, steeper rents, and longer waits for projects to be completed. Conservative lawmakers privately warn that enforcement pushed too far could damage the state's economic backbone. State leaders like Governor Braun and Attorney General Todd Rokita remain firm. Rokita has threatened legal action against Indianapolis officials and school districts that limit cooperation with ICE. He argues that refusing to assist federal authorities puts the public at risk and violates the law. Indiana's story has national significance. Traditionally, immigration enforcement was concentrated in border states like Texas and Arizona. ICE detention nationwide has surged toward 50,000 people, far above the 41,500 beds funded by Congress. That strain is pushing the federal government to find new facilities like Camp Atterbury. If the model proves effective here, expect to see it replicated in other Midwestern states. Arrests in Indiana are up sharply, with nearly 1,400 people detained since January. Multiple counties and state agencies are participating in the 287G program. Camp Atterbury is confirmed as a new ICE detention site. The proportion of non-criminal arrests is rising. Whether this crackdown makes communities safer or more fearful, whether the economic costs outweigh the benefits, and how much local police should act as federal agents. This is a developing story with real impacts on real communities.
The Trump administration now continues its enforcement efforts against illegal immigration. We now are getting a clear picture of what that looks like right here in Indiana.
Well, we're getting new reaction tonight to Governor Braun's announcement about expanded immigration enforcement in Indiana.
The governor says state agencies will help detain undocumented immigrants.
Today, the Drug Enforcement Administration announced a massive drug bust connected to a major Mexican cartel. 19 people have been charged, including Washingtonians and foreign nationals.
The Sinaloa cartel peddles this poison for one reason: to make money. 59 pounds of fentanyl pills and powders seized in this case could have yielded a staggering 6.9 million lethal doses.
What if I told you that enough fentanyl to kill every person in Seattle was just seized from a cartel network operating right in American neighborhoods? This isn't some distant border story. This happened in Washington state, where federal agents just dismantled one of the most dangerous drug operations ever discovered on U.S. soil. Hit that subscribe button because what you're about to see shows just how deep these cartels have dug into our communities.
The FBI says 15 people have now been arrested, including members of a violent Tacoma street gang, as part of a massive fentanyl trafficking bust in Pierce County. The arrest follows an 18-month investigation in Pierce County that focused on criminal activities.
But that's just the beginning. The numbers from this operation are staggering. Agents seized 6.9 million lethal doses of fentanyl, 420 firearms, including grenades and armor-piercing rounds, and nearly $13 million in cash and assets. That's enough poison to wipe out the entire Seattle-Tacoma metro area. This wasn't some lucky